Good morning and welcome back to Planet AP. If you're new here, it's crazy out here, but you're gonna love it. What I want to talk about today is how your childhood may be keeping you stuck. And this is probably one of the most important conversations I'm having with y'all because a lot of times we don't even realize we're like, I'm doing the structural things right, I'm doing the frequency stuff right, I'm doing everything right, I'm what's it called, flooding the frequency, I'm doing all the processes, everything, but the life that I'm calling in, something in me is resisting it, right? And the thing is that the reason we don't clock it is because it's unconscious, and more importantly, because it's from your childhood. So, what I want to share with you today, bring your notepads, bring your snacks. This is going to be a heavy but very important and liberating conversation. I am super excited to share this with you because when I first learned this stuff, it literally blew my mind because I came to all of this work from the personal development industry, right? Where it was everything was about incantations and yelling and rewire your beliefs and think positive and this and that. But it was using your conscious mind to go against 95% of your unconsciousness that you're not aware of. And if you're not aware of what's going on underneath what's going on, then you're always going to feel like you're fighting a program. But it's better, and it liberated me when I actually understood what was happening underneath, right? Because when we look at it and we realize, oh, so that's what's going on. Like, it's not, I used to treat like the voice in my head like a little demon. Like, oh, I doubt myself, I this. But it's actually a little child who has learned, like, that's all they knew. And there are two things that recently happened. One is just a song I heard, and another thing that happened in my life that reminded me of the importance of this, and which is why I felt called to share it with you. And the first thing was there's the song which is called, I think, Northern Attitude, okay? And there's two lyrics, the two verses in that song that really hit me where it, like, cut me where it bleeds, right? And he said, he said, the chorus of the song especially, he said, if I get too cold, did something, and he's like, forgive me for my northern attitude. I was raised out in the cold. And then the second time he says, forgive me for my northern attitude. I was raised with little light. And for some reason, like when I heard that, it cracked my heart open and I burst into tears, and I was like, oh my God, like, I was like, oh my God, like, that is so true, right? And what happens in our childhood, right? That's something that our nervous system memorizes, right? And for so long, I've heard in the personal development and in the healing community and blah, blah, that the survival self this, the survival self that, and it's almost seen as an evil frequency or whatever. But lately, more and more, I'm realizing is that obviously it's not evil, it's just all you've ever known, right? And how is that ever your fault? How is it your fault that you don't know how to receive love if you weren't raised to know what love is, right? How is it your fault that you don't feel comfortable with abundance if you've never been around abundance, right? And when we look at it from this perspective, it gives us so much more awareness and compassion for ourselves and, for the way that we interact with life, because it's not enough to just put a whisper out there, right? Because the way that creation works with God specifically, it's two part, right? It's that you over here, you set the intention and you throw it up to God, right? And you go like, hey God, I'm calling this in my life. And God sends it immediately, right? But what happens is this is your inner child, and the wounds and the whatever experiences that the inner child memorized in their nervous system, they have been like hovering around in your energy field, and they become blockers in your energy field. And so even when God is sending this blessing your way, this little child, for example, you asked God, you said, God, I want love that feels like that feels so safe and this and that and blah blah, or like I want so much abundance, da da da, right? But your nervous system, because as a child that was something that you never learned, what you never knew what it was. You never got a map for, and I'm going to talk about what maps are from in relation to our childhood, but because you never got that, you're going to obviously see that as a threat because it's not familiar to you. So instead of shaming ourselves for why am I this way, why am I that way, it helps so much to peel the layers and look at this little scared child who's terrified. Because when God sent this love, and no matter how much you as an adult wanted it, that little child went like, wait, I don't know what that is. Or when God sent abundance and you were like, oh shit, I always lived in scarcity or lack, and that's what the nervous system has memorized, you're terrified of your own wish fulfilled. And when, unless we acknowledge it and we release it and we integrate it, we're gonna feel like we're a hamster on a wheel. We keep doing the processes but never see it fully manifest in the physical world, fully materialize. All right, so I'm gonna be talking about in this conversation what childhood wounds are, what our maps of the world are in relation to our childhood, your meaning making machine, everything in between. It might get a little long, so I don't know, you probably know how long it is because I'm just starting. But grab your journals, grab your notepads, take notes. I will make this, my intention will be to make it as practical as it can be as well, so you're becoming aware and you're integrating on the same move. But if you do want to go through an entire process and you're like, somewhere along the way you clock that, oh yeah, like I do see this in my life, I relate, hard relate, girl, I can relate, then I do have the 14-day timeline debt challenge, which is now completed, and it's a recorded course which you can get, where this is exactly the experience I took these guys through for 14 days, healing the inner child, healing the nervous system, evicting false gods, and really just spiritually liberating ourselves. So if that's of interest, you want to know more, you can go to the link below. But either way, let's come here, present, and take a deep fat breath from the heart. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, and just drop into this moment here with the intention to allow it to open your heart, to liberate you, and that by the time this video is over, you have a very different perspective on life and yourself and your heart. Let's get to it. So we'll start the conversation. If I get too close to, I was raised on little light. If you get too close, and I'm not who you thought I would be. One thing that I want you to understand, you guys have heard me say a million times at this point that reality is a mirror, right? What do you mean, Anna, it's a mirror? And this is where we put that together, and in case you already didn't know, think about it this way, right? This is your timeline, this is you in the now. And we recognize that reality is actually printed through you. So the thread of reality is coming through you and then going out into your 3D world, right? The world of matter. Now, in this thread, inside your own nervous system, we'll look at this as your nervous system. There were things that happened in early years of your life that taught you familiar feelings. And the energy of these things got stored in your nervous system. So whatever is over here is, when life is getting printed through you, it is going through all these little stored energies and showing up in the 3D. And that is why these energies are reflected in your 3D reality too. And what do we call these sometimes? Triggers. Oh, don't say that, I will get triggered. We hear that a lot. So now, when you were born, this is you were born. I don't know why you look like a cat, but you had a relatively blank canvas. And if we want to go back even before you were born, when your mom was pregnant with you, everything that she felt, her energy field, actually got coded in you energetically too. And this is very important. This is the part that's least talked about. That the state of your mom, or especially your mom, the state of her nervous system actually influenced you before you were even born. This is like in the womb. And it goes back to generations because she was influenced by her and so on and so forth. So now before you even enter the world, you got some cuckooed energy if your mom's nervous system was not regulated. Then you come into the world, right? And now from the years of 0 to 7 especially, right? Super, and then 7 to 12, okay? So 0 to 12, but first 0 to 7 and then till 12. These years, 0 to 7, you, with the energy you've absorbed with from mom, now you are observing the world around you. So you see your mom and dad as God because technically they're the only ones taking care of you. Technically they're meeting all of your needs. You as a child, you just entered the world, so to you they are perfect. To you they're the epitome of everything right. To you it's like, like they are it, right? So you give a lot of importance to mom and dad, and their approval matters. What they say matters. How they think matters. You think that their word is the law. It doesn't matter if they were going through something. Like, you don't have the ability, your conscious mind, your logical, analytical mind has not yet developed. Everything that you experience, everything that you witness outside of you gets accepted as law inside of you. Respect to the law. It gets accepted as law inside of you. And when it gets accepted as law inside of you, that means that becomes what we call your map of the world. So imagine inside each one of us, we've got these different compartments. So you've got a box for success, you've got a box for money, you've got a box for love, you've got a box for friendships, you've got a box for play maybe, you've got a box for food, you've got a box for maybe travel. So you've got a box for maybe achievements, etc. You've got a box for everything. And the way that you imprinted this box was by what you observed during this age from mom and dad. So now let's put this into perspective. As child, let's say you saw, maybe you were over here and you were a very excited little child, okay? You were so excited. You were jumpy, you were curious, you were loud, you were just a lot of you, okay? And when I say a lot of you, I mean a lot to these two people. Now imagine if there are these two people who don't know how to accept themselves, what happens? They look at you and you begin to represent everything that they never got to be. You as a child begin to, with your loudness and your authenticity and your spark and your curiosity and your wonder and awe and playfulness, to these two people who have been living in survival and trauma all their lives, you begin to represent to them who they wish they were. The version of themselves they never got a chance to be. So then, because this threatens their own safety, what happens is they might say something like, "You're too loud. You need discipline. Don't ask questions." Maybe it was children should be seen and not heard. You shouldn't have a voice. Who told you could ask a question? Who told you could have an opinion? Who told you this? Who told you that? And now you begin to internalize everything they're saying. Why? Because right now, it's like, you just got here and you're learning the lay of the land. So you clock, okay, so if I want mom and dad to love me over here, because mom and dad, for them to love you, for them to accept you, acceptance and love for them is literally survival for your baby self. As in, if you don't get acceptance from them, if you don't get love from them, your body thinks that you will literally die. So then it's like, we gotta do whatever it takes to please these two people. And what happens? The law becomes, if I want to be loved in the world, I need to be someone I'm not. If I want to be accepted in the world, I need to change myself. I need to not be so loud and not be so jumpy and not, blah, blah, blah. Now remember I said there were two reasons why what that inspired this video, right? So the first one was the song, but the second one was something that happened in my own life. And I'll tell you what happened. And you know, even though I don't want to, because a part of me is like, shit, like girl, that's too vulnerable. But I want to honor truth in this moment over what my fears or whatever say. So what happened was basically, thing about me is I have, much like everyone else, I grew up with certain type of situations over here. And so there were a lot of things that I had sort of memorized in my body as this is safe and this is unsafe. And while there's so much that I've integrated and released, you know, life, when you keep expanding, life meets you deeper and it shows you and it reflects to you where you've been missing. And that was a crazy ass moment for me a couple of days ago where I was so humbled by life, because I realized that an unconscious habit that built in my life was that I've the biggest heart to hold space for other people's vulnerabilities and whatever they share with me, and to let them know I love them, but always in like vulnerability and intimacy for me. I didn't even realize this, but I had always done it in controlled ways. That don't put me in the spotlight and we're good. Like it was like that, right? And unconsciously, it was a part of me that was scared to be seen, right? For all of who I am. And so what happened was, there is this friend of mine I really care about, and I wanted to kind of like, you know, show that I care. But I didn't want to say it, like, you know, I didn't want to like really like, you know, kind of have like a moment where you look someone in the eye and be like, yeah, hey, I care about you type such. And I always let that person know that I care about them, but like always in like, you know, very perfectly authored, written words and like, you know, perfect ways, right? But never in like a, here you go, now you know I care type of way, right? So I was like, I really wanted to let them know, and so what I did was I sent, you know, their birthday's coming up soon, so I was like, and they're gonna be traveling, so I don't know if they're gonna be home for their birthday. So I sent them flowers, and it was nothing to me, like, you know, okay, down. This is like, I'm exhibit A of this right now, bro. It was a big deal, okay? Because I spent like hours looking for the perfect flowers, and I was like, I want something that the way that reflects who they are, kind of thing, right? And I found this beautiful white roses and other flowers bouquet and type situation, and I got a little cute little note written, and I didn't tell them anything, I just had their address, so I had it delivered. And they got them, and you know, they were like, what the hell, how did, you know, blah blah, and they were like, this is so sweet. And the thing is that when I was doing this, I was laughing my butt off, because I was like, they're gonna be caught so off guard, right? And this is what I mean by controlled intimacy. And you know, over here, gift giving and as a form of showing that you love and care instead of using your words, right? Because when I was growing up, nobody talked about emotions, right? And you would get gifts and things would like, oh my God. You know, nobody talked about like emotions and stuff like that. And I obviously, it is what, you know, you understand it. But like even when my sister passed away, nobody talked about it, right? We just sort of, it was a hush topic. So that thing of like being emotionally, having the emotional regulation to let someone know how you're feeling was so unfamiliar, right? And any time that I've been in situations where I shared how I was feeling was always because somebody sort of like, you know, pulled it out of me, literally sat with me and spent hours and hours until I finally spoke up. Like it's been like a thing, right? And so and you know, like I always thought that, yeah, like I'm over it, blah blah. And so then the next, I think that evening of the said flower day, you know, we got on a Zoom call, we were talking about some stuff, and the first thing to bring up was like, oh my God, dude, I love the flowers. And I was just like, okay, like bro, it's like, You know what I did? Okay, like firstly, I got hella awkward, right? So then I pretended like I had something else to do so I could just like block that out, right? Anytime they brought it up, I pretended I either got a call or like I had to send a text. Or I was tripping. When I say like I felt so uncomfortable, I felt so uncomfortable, right? And when we talked about anything other than said flowers, I was perfectly fine, right? But just the flower word, I was like, what flowers? It was crazy because I was like, I will let you, like, I don't want you to see me. Like, I don't want to be seen like that. Like, you shouldn't know I care, right? It was like that. And like after the call, I sat with it and I was like, baby girl, like, what the hell? Like, that was ugly behavior. I was like, why did my entire nervous system have like a survival response over somebody saying, hey, thank you for the flower? And the reason I tell you this, okay, because it is so related to, and I think it's such a human experience. And I sat with it and I realized that, like, wow, because love was always showed through gestures, but I never really got the whole, I think most of us didn't, a whole like look you in the eye and tell you what you mean to me type situation. And so when those moments happen, you're just like, can I walk through a wall or some shit? Like, it was like that, right? And I really, like, I wanted to, like, leave the Zoom room. I'm not joking. But then I thought to myself, and I was like, okay, well, you gotta have the integrity to be intimate, dude. Like, what the hell? And because to be on the receiving end of something like that, like, imagine someone else does something for you and you acknowledge it, and every time you try to thank them and tell them how much it means to you, they just go like, can we talk about something else? Like rude. What the hell? Like, you would be tripping. You would be like, okay, I guess. Why did you send it if you didn't mean it, So I was like, okay, I need to like address this, right? And with trembling hands and like bro, I cannot begin to just like, when I was telling one of my friends about this, and my friend was like, you? Like, you? Are you you did? And I was like, and then she was like, you know what? You're so right. I don't see you have that level of intimacy with anyone, not even us, right? And you always just go in your own thing, and then you come out and you're just like, I'm solid, right? And I was like, okay, shut up, right? So I tried to send him, okay, I deleted 10 voice notes halfway through because I was like, oh my God, that sounds ugly, right? Finally, I sent like a 7-minute long voice note, and it was like, there was a whole survival cocktail going around in my body. And as soon as I sent it, I was like, where is the unsend button? And it wasn't there, obviously, because I message. And so then I was just like, all right, I gotta sit with this. But it felt so heavy. And I sat with that part of myself, and that's when I realized that, holy shit, like, love that was safe was so unfamiliar that it got mistaken by the body as a threat. That care and love and all of those things were always more performative and external, but you never got somebody to just sit down and look you in the eye and say, hey, you're an incredible person. And it was a really hard pill to swallow, right? Because I think it made me realize why my whole life I always attracted emotionally unavailable people, partners. And I was always like this overgiver type of person. It just put a lot of things in my life into perspective. The last time I had an intimate connection with someone where I was just fully myself was in 2019, right? So you can imagine the time it's been. And That was a very big thing. That was just a very big, because I'm like, God, in my prayers, I'm like, God, I would like friends and community and people in my life that feel safe, and that I can be myself with, and I can share intimacy with, right? And I can just be messy and human and also divine with. And I noticed that whenever the opportunity knocked my door, I would just pretend like I was deaf, right? It's like, nah, nobody knocked my door. And it made me realize that it's not that God is not fulfilling your wishes, right? It's that your childhood has got you so gunked up over here, and your nervous system has memorized those patterns in the map of your world, that they are unconscious to you until they're not, right? And so when I clocked it, I was like, I need to teach myself that this is safe, okay? Because that voice note, dead ass, I'm not joking with y'all. All I said in those 7 minutes was, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I care about you. Like, it was, that, but deeper. But imagine the overbearing survival energy that was going on inside my body, that made that something that small feel like life size, right? And it was like if I am seen, then I will die. That's what it literally felt like. And I felt so like, and I just was like, and I realized, like, God's sending you stuff, right? But you gotta unblock, you gotta stand up, you gotta take that step, and you gotta open the door. The parcel's outside, but babes, you gotta go and get it, right? And that was that. It was like, you gotta go and get it type moment. And the crazy part is that, like, I mean, it's not even crazy, but it's like, my friend, it was so well received, everything I said, and it was so honored and gently, like, it was like, like, it felt like, whoa, that was easy, right? And the thing is, we will never know what happens in the unknown if we never take a step inside it. So our childhood really convinces us that life is a certain color. And the thing, what happens is that all these things, all these experiences that happen and we sort of adopt, become like the shades we see life through. And we've never known what life's actual colors are. We've never known what it's like to look at life without the shades. So we walk around and you look at intimacy, in my example, and you go like, oh shit, turn around, danger. Like, that was dead ass. Like, it was like, danger. Because my shades said, when I look through the shades, it says intimacy is danger, but when you take them off, it says intimacy is love, right? It's connection, it's belonging, it's everything you ache for. And it's our job to learn the nature of our shades by being students of life. And then as we learn the nature of our shades, we become more aware. And you see, the shades say intimacy is danger, but then you're like, no, I need to pull them off. I need to take a step into the unknown. I need to see what's beyond this. I need to do something I've never done before. I need to show up and say the hard thing without someone asking me. That, to me, I told myself and my friend, I was like, I think that's the bravest thing I've done this year. That my friend didn't ask me, like, they didn't sit me down and go like, tell me, like, that was the familiar for me, that unless somebody pulls it out of me, I'm not gonna tell you, right? So the fact that it was unspoken, but I clocked it, and then against my protective mechanism, I said, no, I gotta know what happens when you take the shades off. And that's the thing in life. I think that we're all, like, we've been wearing the shades for so long that we think that this is what life is, grayscale, dulled colors. But, like, you're never gonna know. And everything that you seek in life, every experience, every miracle, every leap in the unknown, it can only meet you at the depth of your ability to take those shades off. The more you can lower the shades, the more you can notice the miracles, the more you can allow it to enter. And so it's not so much as what that thing is, right? It's not so much like, for example, if it's money you're calling in, if it's love you're calling in, if it's a relationship, if it's friendships that you're calling in, you gotta look at, okay, well, what has, if this were to arrive, what would be the feeling in my nervous system? And not the scripted, superficial feeling. A lot of people be, I'd be so happy. No, baby girl, go deeper. Sit with it. See it in front of you. See it just arrive right here, right now. How do you feel? Because intimacy terrified me to my core. I got shaken up because, and I told my friend this. I was like, it's crazy that I give love so abundantly in the world, but when somebody catches it and just reflects it back to me, and that person means something to me, I'm like, I didn't do that. I don't even care. The one thing I don't do in life is give a fuck, right? So it taught me that, like, that came from here, baby girl. That came here. That came from two human beings who didn't know how to give a fuck. And that doesn't make them wrong or right. It just makes them human. And so my intention with this video really is for us to begin to look at the meanings we've created in our lives, because this map has been running you and you don't even know. So you're out here, the blessings are trying to come into you, but your map is blocking them. Why? Because it thinks that they're unsafe. So the very dream life that you have, your nervous system believes that it is a threat to your safety. You're like, God, I want $50,000. The nervous system says, shit, like, I don't know what to do with that money. I don't even know where it's gonna go. I don't know. The nervous system goes in a frenzy. This happened earlier this year with me about money, where this one day I made more money in a day than I had before, and my nervous system went in like a spiral. Oh shit, does that mean I'm like, you know, this? It just like a chemical cocktail, right? And then I sat with it and I integrated it, and I was like, girl, chill out. God's reserves can never run dry. What do you mean? So our ability to raise our frequency is two-part then. It is to, yes, be like have a vision of the future, but also notice what your nervous system has familiarized. Notice what happened over here. Notice what exists in the map of the world. Go back, and you don't even have to go too back. Just look at life right now and notice the things that are not the way that you want them to be. And look at the familiar patterns, because you're going to notice something. Between your childhood and right now, there will be some things that you'll notice are very familiar patterns. The same flavor of something in different ways. Different characters, same storyline. It's like that. And so when you call in things in your life, these will come to you. These will be revealed to you. You will have moments like I had that moment of just letting somebody know, yeah, hey, I know I sent you flowers, but that doesn't mean I care. Like, baby girl, you got Claire written all over that. What do you mean, right? But like, it's like that, right? So, and when we integrate it, we get to swim past the discomfort, even though it's uncomfortable. And the more you do it, the more you meet life deeper, and the more you realize that that was nothing to be afraid of. It was just, I just thought that there was no light in the room that I was walking into. But that's only because I forgot that I was always the light. I think what liberates me is to remember that the light is never outside. It doesn't matter if it's outside or not, because you are the light. It is your heart that's the light. And when you walk, God will illuminate you brighter. Because in the unknown, that's the playground of the divine, right? So it's like, for me, it's easy. It was easier to imagine the end of those situations, right? Visualize what would happen like 6 months later, blah, blah. But then when it came to like the day-to-day moment, when it came to just one moment of just recognizing that, like, hey, you mean something to me, right? Why? Because that's what I was raised on, little light. And that's okay. But understanding it allows us to have compassion for ourselves and be more intentional with how we move through life, right? Because there are a bunch of different core childhood wounds, right? There's that of the abandonment. And we'll look at a couple of them, which is, for example, the abandonment wound. right? There is the rejection wound. There is the control, the safety, and the betrayal. So if when you were a child, you felt abandoned, you felt like your needs weren't met, you felt like you reached out and nobody held your hand, boop, abandonment wound was born. Nervous system learns that people don't stay. Love isn't steady. Maybe it was control. Maybe it was that if you're only if you're this type of person, then you will be loved. If you listen to me, if you do well, then you will get love. What about betrayal? What if your parents lied to you? What if, mom or dad cheated on one another? What if you felt let down by them, betrayed by them? What if you felt rejected for who you are? I want you to understand that the first 7 years of our lives, they really, they're so important. And the gag is that these wounds, they don't just affect our relationship with the world. Yes, they affect our relationship with the world, but also they affect how we perceive God. Because if mom and dad, if as a child you felt abandoned by mom and dad, you know what you're going to feel by God your whole life? Abandoned. If mom and dad didn't know how to emotionally or physically be there with you and make you feel regulated, you're going to think God comes and goes. If they were really, really controlling and strict, you're going to have and it's not because of God, right? It's because these wounds, they literally shape your perspective of the world, and that includes God. And God says, I am how you think of me. So now you've got this perception of God in your head, in your heart, and then you keep attributing the things that are happening to God. You think God doesn't want to give too much to me. God is like withholding. That's what you experience because life is printed through you. So then, isn't it so important that to spiritually resurrect, we need to go back to these and illuminate ourselves with what could it be? What could the truth be? What could actually be underneath it all, right? And some of the questions that I could give you right now is, you want to ask yourself, well, when I was growing up, right, was love something that felt like I had to earn? Was it unconditional? What are the rules, or what are the ways that I experienced abundance? What are some of the beliefs mom and dad had about money? What are phrases I heard a lot? It even trickled down to the way that I ran my business, right? Because I saw my dad running a business, the very logical, structured, and all of that type of way, I assumed that, okay, if you want to succeed in business, you have to stress yourself out, and you're not doing it right if you're not stressed and anxious and barely sleeping. So I mirrored that, and that exhausted me and burnt me out. And obviously God wanted to teach me a better way, so it didn't work out, even with all the strategies and the structure. And that's what allowed me to build with God this year. Like I feel like this year has been such a gift, and it's why I'm doing God-coded business, because I believe that these maps, and it's why the prerequisite to God-coded business is the Timeline Debt Challenge, because I want every single person who's coming there to build a business to have had 14 days of a nervous system regulation, 14 days of letting go of everything from your childhood, because I don't believe that building business any other way can fulfill you. You can build it, but it will burn you out, and it will make you abandon yourself, because you will be moving from this map. So it's so then important to recognize what that map has been, to integrate it, to heal it, and then come here and be period, I'm gonna build a business with God. I'm gonna do something I've never done before. I'm gonna do it in a way that the world is not doing it, because that's pure liberation. That's what it means, right? So the first step is honestly just finding this out, and then look at the ways that are the patterns, the connecting dots in your life from all of that. Where has this played out? And then ask yourself, what do I need to know to let this go? What do I need to know? My intention will be to, make a series out of this and give you guys more and more practical ways and tools to do this. But my recommendation would honestly be to do the Timeline Debt Challenge. Unless you're wanting to start a business or change the way you run your business, then you got to be in God-coded business. You'll get the Timeline Debt Challenge for free. But honestly, these 14 days will completely change your life. And I don't mean that lightly, right? So get inside, do it at your own pace, but watch, because every single person who was inside that experience had a complete spiritual resurrection. Complete, right? And the best part is that once you go through that, you become like how I said that I clocked the pattern that showed up for me. When I take you through that experience, when you go through those 14 days, it not only takes you through an experience, but it also gives you a way, a map for what to do the next time something shows up, right? Because that's how I move through my life now. I don't need to go to a coach or something. I sit with myself and I know how to talk to my heart, how to regulate myself, how to integrate what's coming up, and walk into the unknown with eyes closed but heart open. And that's how we keep expanding. That's how we keep meeting life in the unknown. So yeah, that's it for me today. The links are below as always. I love you so much, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.